king, and he labored to save another. We have several senators here today at this press conference that are going to speak, and then several representatives that were actually there, and I wanted them to tell their story and their account of what happened that day. So we'll start with Senator Mastriano.
Thank you, Representative Borowicz. Thanks for putting this together and putting this foremost. Although the media might ignore it, I think it's important that we do cover this because political violence in America is just disgusting and reprehensible. It's not a way to resolve this, and I'm calling for people to tone down the rhetoric. I see you have the picture of the flag tangled up like an angel, and one of my supporters, she filmed that as well, and I think it was right before the shooting. I think it was a divine sign by God that his hand was over this event, and there's no doubt of divine providence. To have Donald Trump twist his head in that right angle at that right instant, it's impossible. You can't be that lucky. God did intervene. Thank God he did, because politically our conversation would be so different had it turned out differently. And we continue to pray for a hedge of protection over Donald Trump and his family. So Dr. Sweetland, courage comes in many forms, and what we saw from you on that day personifies what we hope to see in combat from soldiers. I spent 30 years in the Army, 4 times in the combat zones, and I could not be prouder to be serving with such a citizen as you, to stand up and put your life at risk, running to the danger, trying to save Corey's life. It's a rare thing to see. And I was also struck that all the people there participating, despite the bloodshed, I didn't see anyone running. I mean, it's amazing the courage from Pennsylvanians in that environment. So on that sunny Saturday on 13 July in Butler, Pennsylvania, it was a scene of horror. But thank you for your courage and being a point of light in the darkness, trying to save Corey's life. And as you recounted in our discussion in the Senate chamber, how you witnessed Corey, although wounded, diving to protect his wife and his daughters. I mean, so he's quite a man. You know, in that crowded field of thousands of people gathering to hear President Trump speak, and to see you jump into action makes me proud to be a Pennsylvanian. Thank you for trying to save his life and staying with him until EMS took him away with those big state police officers you described to me, this giant linemen. And thank you for offering kind words to his wife as well as they were loading Corey into the ambulance. And so in John chapter 15, Jesus said, "Greater love has no man than this, but someone being willing to lay down their life for a friend." So thank you for putting your life on the line and being such a great American. Thank you, Stephanie, for putting this together.
Thank you, Senator. Next, we're going to have a Representative Stephanie Shalaba, who was there that day.
The senator did a great job in highlighting the heroic actions and bravery demonstrated that day, and much has been said about that across the Commonwealth. As someone who was there, I witnessed the tragic events that attempted to undermine the conviction and patriotism of the American people. Despite this, we were blessed with brave souls, both in and out of uniform, who, without hesitation or instruction, willingly placed themselves in danger to put the safety of others above themselves. In that spirit, I would humbly ask that we take a moment of silence to honor the sacrifice and courage so tangibly displayed that day. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Rep. Jake Banta. I knew he was going to be there, so I called him to make sure he was okay. And of course, he gave me the rundown and said that he was okay, as well as other state representatives that were there, so we wanted to check on him. So I wanted him to give his account also that day and share for a few minutes.
Thank you, Representative. It's my pleasure to be here, guys, today. I got up this morning thinking about what I could say about what happened on July 13th, and I got to thinking to myself, if there's any message we need to put out today, it's about bringing our country back together. Whatever you feel about the candidates on either side, we should never get to that level. So I just want to say a few words here, and I want to extend my gratitude towards a good doctor who, in the midst of gunfire, ran towards a fight. On the morning of the rally, myself and folks put aside their duties on the weekend, their jobs, their support, to support a candidate. They got dressed that morning in their red, white, and blue and drove down to Butler to support their candidate. Sadly, the state of our union is one of divisiveness, and another individual decided that day he had another mission with the intent to commit a crime, and ultimately a life was lost and others suffered. In the moment of the emergency, good people stepped up. They ran towards the fight. One of them happened to be standing right behind me. Doctor. Today we recognize Dr. Sweetland's for his act of courage. He selflessly tried to help the victims without knowledge if the area was secured. I applaud the good doctor for putting the victims first before his own safety. And let's all remember, guys, it's a constitutional republic, it's a sovereign nation, and we all have the right to believe what we believe. And let's bring it back together. Thank you.
Next, in the last minute, she wanted to do this, is Representative Leslie Rossi.
It was an extremely hot day that day. 4 hours had gone by since I found my place in my chair. As the crowd sat anxiously waiting in the hot sun, there was a slight breeze and the American flag became tangled and displeased the crowd. As Dave McCormick took the stage, we chanted, "Fix the flag, fix the flag." And the crane operator went and lowered the flag and untangled it and raised it back up. What we did not see at that time, but later realized after viewing all the pictures taken earlier, that the American flag was twisted as it was, resembling a beautiful image of an angel, just above where President Trump would be standing before us on stage. When you sit that length of time, you really get to see people around you and notice your surroundings. I took pictures of the folks up in the bleachers section, and I shared them with Dr. Sweetland a little bit ago, because he noticed the crowd and he was having fun. He was with his friends, he was pointing, he was waving. I waved back, I don't even think you were waving at me. But it was just so wonderful to see the enthusiasm and the fun that all were having. Corey was to the left of me, and Dr. Sweetland was more on the opposite side in the upper section. But I did notice him, and he had a bright white shirt on. And he was talking to another gentleman, and they were smiling and enjoying the day like the rest of us. We were happy, we were enthusiastic, and we were having a great time. We were gathered together being patriotic, and we have the right to do so here in this country, in our great state of Pennsylvania. President Trump arrived, and maybe 6 or 7 minutes had gone by, and we were looking up at a chart on immigration, and there was suddenly a short series of what appeared to be like a firecracker sound. Pop, 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 pop. President Trump grabbed his ear and went down. I could see confusion up in the stands to the left of me, and some people were going down. And at first I didn't realize people up there had been hit. I just thought they were taking cover. Dr. Sweetland went straight into action and was assisting those struck by the bullets. And he was doing all he could. The police hurtled over the railing and carried Corey's body away right in front of our very eyes. It's an image I'll never forget in my entire life. Dr. Sweetland looked on, and he made a motion like this. And I saw him do that, and I felt it. It went straight through me. We knew Corey was gone, and I did not know, as he stepped right into action, of what a hero he was that day. His bright white shirt and his face covered with blood. Dr. Sweetland may not have been able to save Corey's life, but there is comfort in knowing to Corey's family that he had him there, at least tried and tried, and oh, it's so hard. Dr. Sweetland had Corey in his hands, and then Corey went straight to God's. May his soul rest in peace. Thank you, Dr. Sweetland, for being there for all of us that day, and for devoting a lifetime in your career to so many lives for years of your service, to your patients and those lives you have touched. I wish you many blessings, and I am pleased that you are here today for us to honor and thank you. Thank you so much.
I had also been talking to Representative Rossi, and she's the one who sent me the picture of Doc, and then we correlated it back to Lock Haven. He is actually a constituent in Representative Armanini's district, but he works in Senator Dush and I's districts. And so next to speak is Senator Dush.
Thank you, Stephanie. And on that day, I wasn't able to get to the rally because of another event, and I was watching it with my wife, and I had just turned around, and I hear the sound of a .223 round going off. And for those of us who have been in the military, you can, if you've had tens or hundreds of thousands of rounds that you've heard before, you know the difference between that and a 7.62 or something else. I immediately turned back to the television, and I watched the president as he had just grabbed his ear and started going down. I was dumbstruck. I had a lot of my friends there, a lot of constituents. One of them, as was said earlier, Corey and his family were just having a great time. And a friend of mine named Ernie, he was videotaping the whole thing, and he didn't videotape the shooting, but what he did have was a lot of good video of that family having a good time. He was able to share that with it. He was sitting right under the path of the bullets. He heard the snap of the first bullet before he heard the rounds go. What was amazing was, as Senator Mastriano said, people weren't running. Our Western Pennsylvania folks are solid. But we did have one who ran straight into the breach. And that man stands behind me right now. As Senator Mastriano had said, you know, you don't understand, being in the military, it's not until the stuff really hits the fan that you really understand how you will react or how the people that are alongside you will react. Doc Sweetland's experience in the ER, I think, has helped that. And I don't think that it does get any easier if you've tried to rescue somebody and you've not been able to save their life. It's tough, I know from personal experience. And so the things that he carries with him, you can't unsee, you can't unexperience that kind of stuff. But I know the Competore family is very appreciative. I think we all are. We all have good reason to be proud of Doc Sweetland, and he deserves the recognition from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Instead of ducking and running, he realized where the rounds were heading, and he ran towards where those rounds were heading. And he did his best to save Corey, another hero. He had his life in emergency services, putting his life on the line in burning buildings and even accident scenes that weren't safe by the time he got there. It's great to have good, solid heroes to celebrate, and I think we get to put road markers up for the military members who have fallen, or firemen and such that have been fallen, dedicate bridges and roads. but for those who are living and have exemplified the type of heroism that Doc Sweetland exhibited that day, I just think this is an appropriate way to do it, and I'm glad to be helping give him the recognition in the Senate. God bless all of you, and Doc Sweetland, God bless you.
Thank you, sir.
Next is Representative Armanini, and Dr. Sweetland is actually his constituent. So I'm going to have him introduce his friend. Thanks.
Thank you, Stephanie, and it is an honor and a pleasure to be with everyone here today. Jim and I, we are parishioners of Holy Spirit Church in Du Bois. And on Sundays, I don't know how we do it, but myself, my wife Valerie, along with him and his wife Lois, we always seem to congregate to each other to walk out from church and have a nice little discussion before we start our days. And when Dr. Sweetland moved to Treasure Lake, I first met him when we both spearheaded the Veterans Memorial Park at Treasure Lake, which is a beautiful area that overlooks the water. And it was that day when I met him for the first time that I realized this is a special man who is moving into our community and was a doctor and is still being involved. So that was the type of person I knew he was. And when I found out of his heroic doings in Butler, my wife said, first, oh my God, of the situation. But then when we found out that it was him who went to Corey's aid, first thing we thought was he thought nothing of his life to try and save another. And of course, that Sunday when we saw him after that, it was a different hello, a different handshake, because I was so blessed to know that he was still with us. And I'm so honored today to introduce him to you, because he is a man of many statures and greatness. And also, Doc, Stephanie and I had this flag flown over the Capitol for you in your honor.
Thank you.
And it is so nice to have you here, neighbor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, neighbor.
Thank you.
Okay. I have to say a couple things. One, what I'm about to say, I have two disclaimers. One is that the views I'm about to make are my own. They're not of the employers that I have. Second disclaimer I'd like to make is that I used to be a Democrat. So with that in mind, I am truly blessed and honored by all these guests to be here today and be honored in this way. I've been interviewed by all the major networks, and everyone has called me a hero. But I'm here to tell you I'm no in the pantheon of heroes. I stand on the bottom rung, and Corey Competor stands on the top rung. I've never met the man, nor have I talked to his family, but I've read as much as I can about him. He was a fireman. He was a girl's daddy. He went to church every single Sunday. He had a rock-solid belief in his community as well as God above. Corey has been characterized as a victim. Victim is someone that is the butt of a crime. He was not a victim. He was a hero. Corey gave his life willingly for his wife and daughters. And I think we should all ponder that. In the giving, that only took a few seconds. And he gave it without any hesitation. He was in the line of fire, that assassin that day that tried to change our election with a bullet. And as we know, we all need to change it with ballots. And I ran to him. As bullets rang out, I heard from where he was a voice saying, "He's been shot, he's down." If you are in the medical field or EMS, and thank you for doing that, if you are, that's a way of crying, "Help, I need you right now." I turned and I hesitated, and I heard a voice in my ear, and in my head say, go, go. They need your help. Pause. What are you waiting for? It was a voice that was once commanding, as well it was protective. It was a voice that said, go. I've got you. Go help. I went and helped Corey with the assistance of two people I want to call out, Rico Elmore, as well as Ed Shear, helped me lift him up so I could perform resuscitation on him. I wish to recognize them openly today. The other thing I wish to say is that two of the biggest state police officers I've ever seen, these are big guys, they could have been NFL defensive tight ends. Picked up Corey and got him off that bleacher as fast as anybody could. It was remarkable. In the end, I always talk at the end of a speech, and I'm about to wrap up here, about how we have a very hot climate, political climate in the United States. And I always end this by saying I was at a rally exercising my right to support President Trump. So was Corey. And we all need to lower the temperature. Sometimes leaders don't do that, especially during election year. But call someone who has a different political view than you and just say to them, I'm worried about the United States. How about you? Can we talk to each other in a loving relationship, in a loving manner? And then ask them about what worries them. And you'll find if you do this, and I've talked to several Democrats about this, 5 of them, and surprisingly, each one has replied back to me that, yeah, thank you for calling. So in closing, I want to say, please reach out to people that you don't normally speak with. You'll be really surprised and gratified by the response that you get. Thank you very much for this wonderful honor. Thank you very much, Stephanie Borowicz, Mike Armanini, for having me here.
Thank you again for coming to honor the heroic acts on July 13 in Butler County and the attempted assassination, and I'm grateful to say attempted assassination of President Trump. And again, you know, God continues to shed his grace on this nation, undeservedly, but he continues to shed his grace on this nation. And so thank you guys for coming.